Hello and welcome to the 741 channel. Thank you for stopping by. Today we're going to put this deck back onto my Husqvarna 2246LS riding mower. Now the reason I had taken this off last fall was because this bracket had come off the deck. This weld here had failed. So I have a welder, but I'm not a very good welder. So I ended up taking this to a shop to have it done sort of professionally. You can see here there's a decent bead on here now. There's actually a bead on the other side too. And they put a little paint on there to cover up the bare metal. So now if you're interested in seeing how this came off of the mower in the first place, I've made a video about that and there'll be a link to it in the description below. I've also made a video detailing how I changed the blades on this deck, and if you want to see that, there's a link for that as well. So the first thing that I'm going to do here before I put the deck back under the mower is I'm going to reroute the belt on here. Now you may be able to see it, you may not, but there is a routing diagram here on the front of the deck, so we'll just follow that for how the belt should go around the pulleys. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Torx T30 screwdriver and I'm going to loosen the screws that hold these plastic shrouds down just to make it a little easier to get the belts in there. And as you can see, we didn't need to take the thing all the way off, just needed to loosen it enough to kind of lift it and provide some room for the belt to slide down behind the pulley. So now I'll do the same thing over here. Okay, so now I'll finish up routing the belt. This is going to go around this idler pulley, and there are just some metal tabs here that we're going to have to just kind of move out of the way temporarily to get this kind of on here. And then over here, this belt just kind of wraps around this pulley like that. Now we've got a little bit of a twist here. We'll work the twist out, and we should be good to go. Next up, I'm going to reinstall this spring that connects the idler arm to the deck and provides tension on the idler pulley. What I'm going to do first is take this end of the spring and hook it around this hole that's in the idler arm. And I'm going to orient it so that the hook is sort of facing up and the body of the spring is mostly below the arm itself. So now what I'll do is stretch the spring out and hook the other end around this hole in the edge of this bracket. Okay, so we got the spring on there. Now it looks a little funny over here, but once this is tensioned up and the belt is in place, this will kind of straighten out and be okay. So what I'll do now is make sure both of these brackets are swung forward so they're not in the way, and we'll slide this under the machine. Okay, so we're taking a close look underneath what I'll call the left side of the machine. That would be the side that would be on your left if you're sitting on it, riding it. Anyway, the first thing I'm going to do is pull that cotter pin right there out of the way. So next up, I'll bring this bracket up and get it on this pivot point. I had to slide the deck a little bit forward there to line everything up. So now I'll just put the pin back in. Hopefully we have a decent camera angle here. Now, the next thing we're going to do is reinstall the rod with this sliding end on it. But before I do that, I'm going to pull this safety pin out of the way. So then the next thing I want to do is make sure that the deck height lever, which you can't see in the shot here, is all the way down, so the deck would be at its lowest position. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bent end of the rod here, and I'm going to work it through this hole that's in the lever that's attached to the deck height control. So then we'll pull this washer out of the way. We'll lift the deck up a little bit to get that kind of on the pin. I'll bring the washer back and then reinstall the safety pin. Okay, so now we're over on the right side of the machine and looking at the back of the deck. There's another safety pin here that I'm going to remove. Okay, now we'll pull this washer and set it aside. Next up, I've got this rod that you can't see the other end of because the wheel's in the way, but this is bolted on the machine with a lock nut, so I didn't remove this when I took the deck off. I just let it hang there. It was sort of out of the way. So this next thing is a little tricky just because I got the camera in the way, but we're going to try and pivot this over, lift the deck up, and hook this back on this pin here. So now I'll bring this washer back, and we'll put this safety pin back in place. Okay, we're going to pull this safety pin out of here next. And just like on the other side, we're going to bring this bracket up, pivot in place, get it over that pin, and then we'll just put the safety pin back. So now we're looking under the front of the machine at the front of the deck, and we're going to reinstall this rod here. Hopefully you can see it in the camera. I'm not sure if this is a good angle or not, but anyway, the first thing that I'm going to do is pull this safety pin off of this rod here. Next up, I'm going to fish the bent end of the rod through this hole that's in this bracket. And then we're going to turn it around so that the bent part of it is sort of facing the right side of the machine. And we're going to put this through the hole that's in the front of the deck behind the front wheel. So now I'll just pop the safety pin back on the end of this rod here. Okay, and that should do it. Now what I'm going to do is get the belt mounted to the main engine pulley here. So before I kind of loop that around the pulley, I'm going to check and make sure the belt is still routed the way it's supposed to be on the deck, and also make sure that it didn't twist or anything like that. So now I'm laying underneath the front of the machine, and I'm just going to kind of pull the belt and work it onto the pulley here. Okay, and that should do it. Okay, so now I'll just check and make sure the deck moves up and down freely. Nothing is binding or anything like that. That's pretty much going to do it for reinstalling the deck on this Husqvarna 2246LS riding mower. Now I'll mention one more time that if you want to see the process for removing the deck or changing the blades, there's 2 videos down in the description that you can click on and watch. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to leave a comment or subscribe, feel free to do that as well. And if you'd like to support my channel in another way, please consider visiting my Amazon store, which you'll find linked down in the description below. Thanks for watching!